Good morning, Bill. Nice to see you.
I see too. Right?
See a few usual suspects on the list.
Are you guys gonna start doing in-house ones again sooner or later?
Yeah, we did the last year we did the fall one in at Amble Center, and we're gonna do this year's in the fall as well, either at Amble Center or at the new community center pool. They have a meeting room there that we might be able to use. We haven't pinned it down yet, but we are planning for the fall one to actually have some breakfast with the
Okay.
with the session for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Maybe
think
one more minute and then we'll go, Karen. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
Perfect. Good morning, Henry. All right. Well, maybe we'll get going. So, yeah, welcome everybody again. Our spring 2026 Builder and Designer Breakfast. This, in fact, is our 28th session that we've been hosting either in person or online to help with the city's transition to performance-based codes and just support our local building designer community with the latest in green building technologies and construction practices for high performance home. I'm Ryan Coleman here with the City of New Westminster. I'm also pleased to be joined today with Karen Johnson from the City of New Westminster, who's also helping to co-host the meeting today. So do you want to go to perfect land acknowledgement? Over to you, Karen.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And thanks everybody for being here today. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the session. We just wanted to start with a land acknowledgement and really recognize and respect that New Westminster is on the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Halkah speaking people. And we recognize and we acknowledge that colonialism has made invisible their histories and connections to the land. And as a city, we are always learning and we're looking to build relationships with the people whose lands we are on. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Ryan to get into some more details.
Perfect. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so just on the housekeeping front, many of you, I know you've joined us. So just a few things. This is recorded. We want to make it available for everybody. So just know that that's happening. If you do want to ask a question or let us know who you are, please do that in the chat with your name and what role you have and what organization you're with. Yeah, please stay muted unless you want to speak and raise your hand. I was chatting with Jills beforehand. We're happy if you want to put some questions in the chat as we go. We can try to facilitate if it's on like a specific subject matter, or we'll also have some time at the end to do Q&A follow-up. So either save your question to the end or you can raise your hand or put it in the chat box as we go. All right. In terms of agenda, yeah, so we have a few things. We're going to start with a keynote presentation from Jills on achieving high performance houses. Jills is coming to us from Kelowna today, and he's with Total Home Solutions. I'll do an intro here in a second. Karen's going to provide a few specific city updates, and then Sue and I are going to close off with some updates from Energy Save New West, and then we'll let everybody depart for the day. Okay, so perfect. Yeah, so we're really happy to have Gilles Lesage here from Total Home Solutions. So I've known Gilles for quite a while now. He's one of the master energy advisors in the energy efficiency space. They do have a category for that now with Casey. He's got over 20 years of experience with residential, multi-unit, and large building projects. Both from an energy performance as well as like compliance and verification. Gilles has lots of expertise in a variety of sort of the energy modeling space around evaluations, MERBs, green home certifications, be it Energy Star, moved into heat loss calculations, F280, air tightness testing, building diagnostics, and he's also one of the CHBA's registered net zero energy advisors and able to provide those designations for specific homes. Gilles also donates some of his time for industry development with the Canadian Association of Consulting Energy Advisors, where he's serving as the technical liaison. with the association. So that's basically a role that links Casey with energy advisors and other industry stakeholders, building officials, to help with the interpretation of standards and influence best practices across the province. So super happy to have Gilles here this morning with specific focus on achieving the highest steps for Part 9 homes as we continue our transition path along the step code and zero carbon step code pathway. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Gilles. Thanks for joining us.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan, and thanks everyone for having. I'm very happy to be here. I'm just going to transition and share my screen. And of course, to do a quick check that this is actually working. Let's see here, play from beginning. All right, is that coming through the proper way? Perfect, perfect. I guess I don't know if Ryan, you kind of recognize the names that are listed here as well as others. Can I just get a kind of an idea as to who's on in regards to builders and designers and planners and
Yeah, from the names that I see, Gilles, you got a lot of builders and a few designers. A lot of the folks here that I see are specialized in design and construction here in our local community, and then a few people from other like associations and things like that.
Perfect, perfect. No, that's good. It's just I have an idea as to who's in the room, so to say, so I could just yeah, kind of fine tunes the way that we approach it. So that's great. Thank you. So yeah, so as Ryan mentioned, my name is Jill. I'm from Kelowna. I've been an EA for over 20 years. Started off in Manitoba first and moved here to Kelowna in 2011. Right at about the same time as the new home construction was taking on more of that guide kind of compliance kind of space. So really, really good timing for me, I guess, in a way. So really got in right at the kind of the forefront of the tip of the wave, and with that, kind of found myself helping with developing or educating and promoting and introducing actually step code way back when to our building community. I remember our first session ever was in Abbotsford to introduce step code and what this beast was going to be. And it's funny because that was just step one back in the day. And now, of course, with changes, there's a bit of not apprehension, but I guess, so to speak, apprehension. So it's just fun to see how far things have come along since gosh, 2000, whatever it might be, 15 or 16, I can't remember now. Anyways, yeah, again, very happy to be here. I don't have to introduce myself much more. I think Ryan did a great job for that. Yeah, in regards to Casey, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Canadian Association of Consulting Energy Advisors, but we are about 10 years old right now. It was about 10 years where a few of us from BC actually thought, wow, like we've got a profession of energy advisors and we really don't have any kind of a structure like home inspectors did or architects did in regards of association. So we actually started one. And fast forward 10 years later, we're across the country now, and we've got about 300 members, and we are very much active at the table, literally and figuratively with NRCan, with codes, with the province, and we have members in every province in Canada as well. So it's been great to see that. I'll get back to a little bit later about the energy advisor and the role with this high performance building kind of scenario, and you'll see there was really need for the association and need to further our profession because we're really connecting a lot of dots here right now as we're moving into more high performance building. So in regards to BC Energy Step Code and the upper steps or steps 4 and 5, that will be the focus of what we're talking about today. And I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with this already, seeing as New West is already at step 4 and step 5 with the varying levels of the carbon step code. Again, that might be a bit of a newer concept too, but we were at EL1 for the longest time where it was just measure only, and now in New West adopting voluntarily higher levels of that. So step 5 with EL2 or step 4 with EL4. And I understand that there's some talks about some possible changes to step 5 and EL4 coming up possibly very soon. So with that said, you're probably all very familiar with the basics of step code. I've got a few slides here to kind of talk about some of those things, but what I'd like to do is really kind of look at some of the fundamentals of step code and how they do affect and help us along to the step 4 and step 5. We also have the new carbon step code. Again, with the idea that by 2030 that we're at the zero carbon performance or zero carbon ready, which would be EL4. So that too is something else that we will discuss briefly. But again, a lot of this stuff we have to understand that the energy advisor is basically the one that's figuring this out for you to make, I guess, your lives a little bit easier to help out as part of your team. So we're really relying a lot on the energy advisors to come up with some of these numbers to show compliance. So in regards to step code, we've got our basic metrics. I'm sure everyone is quite aware of. We've got the envelope targets, the mechanical targets, and the air tightness targets. And I'm talking just about the step code, not the carbon code at this point. We'll come back to that a little bit later. We've got a few options here in BC. I don't know if some of you might be aware, but nationally they've got the tiered code, and it's very similar to our step code, but they don't use the TEDI or the MUI as part of that. All they have is that percentage better than. So here in BC, we do have that extra kind of option for each, the mechanical and the envelope target. So for envelope, we've got the percentage better than the base code reference house, if you will, and of course the TEDI, which is a performance-based metric according to the size of the home in regards to the heated floor area. And the TEDI, how it's calculated, is basically the energy that is needed to keep the home heated. Again, I won't spend too much time on some of these items here. And then they did kind of make some adjustments fairly recently, as of May 1st of 2023, to allow for smaller homes to kind of have a little bit of leeway, because we did find that there was a little bit of challenges there for smaller homes to achieve certain things. So there were some adjustments made. All of this are in the tables, and of course for your energy advisor, whoever to kind of manage and to reference to. Same thing with the mechanical target. We've got the percentage better than base reference house and or the MUI, which is that per square foot of heated floor space kind of metric. And again, it's either or for each of these. And of course, the mechanical energy use intensity is, again, the energy needed to heat, cool, and ventilate your home. And that is compared or divided by the square footage of that heated floor area. Again, smaller homes were given a little bit of a leeway here at the same time, because we are finding that that the calculations didn't really favor smaller homes. So there were some adjustments made there. Air tightness. This is obviously a huge factor. It's one of those metrics that is a pass or fail within our systems and our targets. It's becoming more and more prevalent, obviously, with step 4 and 5, because of the targets being more stringent for much tighter homes for those upper steps. So step 4 and 5 is 1.5 and 1.0 ACH. I'm sure you're all very well familiar with ACH and what that stands for. The good thing is that one of the recent changes is that they did introduce equivalencies to the ACH, which were the normalized leakage area and the normalized leakage rates. And these are now published as part of that. So now we have ACH or NLA or NLR that we can use to meet these step code targets. And why I say that's good news is that smaller homes and smaller volumes really did not translate well to ACH. And we were having trouble passing at some of the more normal targets, even for step 3 for laneway homes, for example. Vancouver had this in their VBBL for a long time, and it was like, why doesn't step code have this? So eventually it came through and it became part of the changes as of May 1st of 2023. So a few more options there, and of course everything is published. And the NLA is basically if you added up all the leakage of the entire home into one area, how large is that hole? And then basically divided by the surface area of the building, so it's normalized that way too. And the same thing with the NLR, the leakage rate, which is the CFM or liters per second flowing at 50 Pascal divided by the surface area. Again, all these things for your energy advisor to test for and to gauge and to use whatever metric works to reach these targets. We will talk more about air tightness a little bit later on, but there are a few more design considerations first that we should look at when it comes to the TEDI, MUI, and how that's calculated within the heated floor area, and some things that might help with that. You may also be very well aware of, but perhaps this might be a review for some of you, but it could be maybe some new concepts that we're exploring here as well. And then we'll look at obviously one of the larger things is the assemblies and fenestration performance, the shell of the building, and how that helps reach those steps 4 and 5. Mechanical choice is obviously a huge part, and then air tightness again. So all equally as important to getting to that step 4 and 5. And I'm sure everyone here is of the same kind of attitude toward, like, basically when we approach projects, we want to do what makes sense and apply to the project the more feasible ways and practical ways of achieving step 4 and 5. So again, we have the luxury of having some of those choices. We can make choices on materials, where we want to extend our efforts in regards to envelope and so on and so forth. We all have preferences of what we want to spend our money and our time on and efforts, and our labor might be more used to doing certain things than others. So we have the luxury of choices. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So first, for design considerations, for the heated floor area, this is important for the Teddy and the MUI because these targets are divided by the size of the home, which is the square footage or square meters, and that is from the heated floor area. So what that is exactly is any space within the building that is temperature controlled, so a conditioned space, and it's also a usable part of the building, for lack of better words. So it's the sum of the above grade floors and below grade floors that are at least 4 feet in height. That's what's included in the heated floor area. And so any kind of spaces that are over like a mezzanine, for example, and open to below area, these are not usable spaces. So typically the way you look at it is, can you walk on it or can you walk comfortably in it? That's kind of the metaphor that I like to use. It's used for the Teddy and the MUI calculations only, not for the percentage better than calculations for those same targets. So one thing that really affects the numbers, for example, are crawl spaces. We're looking for that 4-foot rule. And then, so basically any kind of crawl space that is 4 feet or higher to the underside of the joist per se from the slab, that square foot area, square meter can be included in the calculations for the heated floor area. So that really does affect the end result of calculations. So I guess in essence, if you're looking at a 3.5-foot crawl space versus a 4-foot crawl space, that can make a big difference. And it is, unfortunately, it is a numbers game, and that does affect our calculations, but that's what we have. So just one thing about a 3-foot crawl space to 4-foot crawl space, it makes a huge difference in regards to calculating the Teddy and the MUI. And again, as mentioned, areas open to below, those are not included. So we basically are looking at making calculations for Teddy and MUI for an entire house, but we will not be able to use that floor area from that area. So that kind of hits our calculations a little bit. So when it comes to design, I guess that's where I'm coming from with this. When it comes to design, it'd be great to keep some of this in mind. If you can, I guess, within the limitations of what we can do for design, if we have those options to avoid open areas to below as much as possible and to avoid 3-foot crawl spaces, that might help you in regards to the Teddy and MUI calculations. Number 2 in design considerations is windows. The amount of glass in a home really, really does affect, and I'm sure we're all aware of this. The less amount of windows and where they're placed can have a huge effect on the project and how we're hitting our targets. And that's both for percentage better than and the Teddy and MUI. Of course, the lower window to wall ratio is better, for example. As you see within these two photos here, these would basically need a bit of extra help in different ways to reach certain targets or reach targets a lot easier. It can also lower the impact depending on how much glass to wall ratio we have. That also dictates, if we have to go to step 4 and 5 and do some kind of upgrades or some improvements, are we looking at the window performance, or should we look at the wall performance? So depending on the window to wall ratio, that can dictate which one is more effective for you and where you should spend those efforts. So again, these are all kind of parameters that the energy advisor or energy modeler would use and try and figure out on your behalf to bring you some solutions that would best fit the project. When it comes to the window to wall ratio, we're always comparing to that base code minimum house, and that's what we call the reference house. And within that reference house will always have a window to wall ratio between 17 and 22%. So if your proposed house, your project, the as-built or what have you, has a 15% window to wall ratio, you're at an advantage because it will compare that proposed house with a reference house of 17%. So the numbers are in your favor. Again, if we have a house like in the top right here, where we might have a 35 to 45% window to wall ratio, and we've had lots of those here in the Okanagan, I can tell you, that house will be compared to a home with 22% window to wall ratio. So it really will have to work a lot harder somewhere else to get that, or we have to go with a really good, window performance and maybe wall performance, et cetera, et cetera. There's other things with windows that come into play. There's a lot of technology involved. We have to deal with solar heat gain coefficients. We have a lot of overheating kind of concerns these days that are happening, in BC. So solar heat gain is key for this. Also, depending where the windows are placed, the orientation does help or will affect the numbers. U values, the actual thermal resistance of that window, huge. Do we go triple or dual glaze? We've got all these decisions to make, and so again, use your consulting or your consultants, your energy advisor, energy modeler, to help you with window performance. Even with window selections, we find many times that we're given kind of a blank slate to go. You tell me what windows we need, and even the performance criteria for them to make sure that we have a safe home, that we have a good performing home that is getting to the targets that we're looking at. And of course, the installation of windows, which leads to the air tightness and any kind of other possible unintended consequences of a poorly installed window. That, of course, we've probably been exposed to some of those things, in other seminars and so on. There's a lot of information out there about window installation, some great guides. So obviously, we'd invite you all to further look at those and explore. So dual pane or triple pane, that's always a question. We're looking at step 4, step 5. We still do have, for the most part, that choice. For step 5, we're probably needing a little bit more help. But what I wanted to kind of show with this slide is we have a bit of overlap. Dual glazing are being manufactured now with some decent numbers in regards to U values, where we see that they're kind of overlapping with triple pane values. Every manufacturer has great windows. Every manufacturer has a range of windows and coatings and where the coatings go. So it's a matter of exploring with your suppliers what works. There's so many options out there. So, with dual glaze, they might cost a little bit less. The workability, where they're a bit lighter to install, easier to install, that's been kind of the conversation for a while. Lots of, it's readily available. Obviously, it's a more common thing. Triple pane, obviously available, but, might have a little bit of a cost increment. And I think some of the myths out there that it's just way too expensive to go triple pane. And really, I think from some of the invoices I've seen, I'm not a builder paying the bills, but it's surprising how many, a little bit of cost increase, but not as much as I would have thought. So it's worth exploring, is what I'm saying. Workability, again, once we get used to installing a little bit heavier window, that should be fine. And again, the options are out there for triple glazing and to vary the U values and solar heat gains that we need to get to our targets. There's other ones available too that are a little bit advanced. I got my first project here in Kelowna. I'm excited. It has some vacuum glass inserts. We'll see how that works, but they can range really low U values from Krypton fill to 0.65 to vacuum VGI to 0.45 U values. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Obviously, a bit more cost to these extreme high performance windows, but design consideration number 3 is keeping it simple. and I'm sure you've all seen this slide before. I like this image. It really does kind of dictate what the idea is. What we're looking at is a simpler of a design, the easier it would be to basically get to some of the targets in regards to exposed surfaces to volume ratios. That kind of formula does hit when it comes to some of our metrics. Also, when we keep the shape easier, it's a lot simpler. We have less intersections, corners, nooks, and crannies, if you will, for lack of better words, to figure out how we're going to air seal this envelope, um, and just construction practices altogether with labor and such. It just makes it more complicated. And of course, the more complicated it might be, the more mistakes or more corners can be forgotten, so on and so forth. So keeping it simple is if you can. We're all limited with some of the design kind of features that we're trying to deliver to our clients, to our, for custom homes, obviously. We've got our clients are looking for specific things, and we have to deliver, obviously. But there's the notion of, is there a way that we can build a simpler form or simpler shape and add on architectural kind of details onto that to make it look a bit more intricate, or not complicated, but just a bit more fancy, if you will. So there's that concept as well. So we're kind of in that kind of tug of war to say, listen, we like to keep things a little simpler, but we also have to design for what the aesthetic is that our clients want to. So as much as we can, that'd be great. Simpler shapes, it's or more complicated shape, would be a lot more difficult to air seal, to provide airtightness details, for example, depending on our approach there. The time it takes for construction, making sure that our labor and our trades are actually, setting it up properly and constructing it properly. So that's one other thing. Also, the size of the home. Size does matter. Smaller homes and simpler homes tend to perform easier and hit higher targets a little bit easier than more intricate or more complicated designs. We've also got a lot of the factors that help us with our targets have to do with internal gains. So, in our energy modeling, for the most part, it includes three people living in the home that are giving off their own body heat. In some cases, if we have an electric storage tank in the home, it's also giving off its heat. So that's helping to heat the space in this smaller space, therefore not needing as much heat for the rest of it. So easier to hit some targets, for example. Simpler form, simpler air sealing details, and also with a smaller home, typically, not all the time, but typically it comes with less windows. So your window to wall ratio, I've seen some manufactured homes that are down to like 7% window to wall ratio. So anyways, just some things to keep in mind if we're dealing with smaller homes. Even laneway homes, for example. Design consideration number 4, R values, assemblies. Obviously, a huge part of our shell. It's if there's any ways that we could improve on that R value, it's going to help us for those higher steps. There's things we can do with attics. There's things we can do with walls. Obviously, I'm sure we've all been exposed to wall webinars, high performance walls. There's a lot of literature, guides, illustrated guides out there, really, really good ones. And we've been having wall discussions for many years since Step Code came through. So lots of options there. And of course, our foundation walls as well. So for attics, if it's a regular kind of ceiling, one thing that's super easy, it's easy to pump in more insulation into an attic. It's probably one of the most least expensive, not effective, expensive kind of upgrades to do. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to design is our heel heights. For the most part, I think I've only been seeing high heel trusses for the most part. I think we've really caught on in the industry towards that. But just keep in mind that in the energy modeling, if we have a lower heel height where it comes down to a point and it's compressing some of that insulation, it does affect our overall R value of that ceiling. So keeping a heel height, 12 inches or higher is a huge advantage. It just gives you that full benefit of the R value for your ceiling within the energy model. For flat roofs and flat roof decks, again, we have some options here. We're seeing a lot more of exterior roof deck insulation. I don't know if some of the builders here have been using this more than cavity fill or spray foam. We can discuss that a little bit later on, but we can basically look at the concepts of an exterior wall, but that's basically been flipped on its side and is now a roof. So we can have split insulation, just exterior roof deck insulation. When it comes to that as well, we can't forget that we have a sloped roof package that is usually made with EPS foam. So there's ways to include the R value of that EPS foam slope roof package within the assembly. There's ways of doing that. It's not just a simple averaging. There's actually guides in the BC Housing Illustrated guides that show how to do that properly. So again, lots of options here with flat roofs, and we're seeing more and more flat roofs, especially with decks over living space. There is ways too to possibly split that, where you can actually have cavity fill insulation plus a little bit of outside. But again, it's good to gauge that just like you would with a wall to make sure that there's no chance of any kind of dew point condensation forming on any kind of sheathing layers as we're getting towards that exterior. Cathedral roofs, same thing. It's less some ventilation requirements depending on what the configuration is. Of course, these are mostly, filled from within. We have seen cathedral roofs that have the exterior deck insulation as well. So again, lots of options there. Again, to be explored by or offered up by your energy advisor, energy modeler to see what best fits the project. Exterior walls, same thing. I'm sure you've had a lot of exposure to some of the options out there for exterior walls. I guess the story is, that we will need higher R values on our walls and our ceilings everywhere to get to our step 5, for example. Step 4, we still can get away with some conventional construction techniques as they're done today, but for step 5, typically we're looking at added R value. When we're doing that, adding that R value to the exterior is mostly the conversation that we're having today with building science and a lot of our high performance wall systems. And so again, thermal bridging is somewhat almost eliminated by adding insulation to the exterior, which helps obviously with the calculations, but also helps with any kind of dew point locations within that wall system too. And we'd also have to think about drying potential as well. There's a lot of options out there. We've all heard of the double vapor barrier, the vapor sandwich. At the most fundamental levels, that is something that obviously we have to keep in mind and avoid. There's different materials out there that can create that, but there are some materials out there that can still be used. Even though it's depending on thickness and depending on membranes, like smart vapor barriers, for example, things like that. We have all these tools available for us to design a safe wall. So again, can't understate how much it's important to make sure that your wall is built safely, and there's a lot of options for that. Even drying potential towards the inside of the house or towards the outside, which is mostly what we've been talking about for a while already. I've got here a few images from the BC Housing Illustrated Guide. They got their R22 Plus guide, which is great. A lot of options inside there. Does have a lot of building science built into that too. So strongly recommend. They've got the air tightness guides, just going on their website and seeing what's out there. They've got a lot of resources available. And they're not the only ones. RDH has a ton of resources. There really is no shortage of information on wall assemblies or any assemblies out there. We talk about permeance too. When it comes to the building science of the wall, we obviously want to avoid any kind of unintended consequences. Make sure that the drying potential is there. Have your wall assembly verified, designed. We've got some building envelope consultants out there that would be able to help. Energy advisors, for the most part, we have to stay within our lane of our expertise. That's one thing. So it's good to ask of your energy modeler, energy advisor what they think, but they should be smart enough to also say, listen, this is beyond the scope. I suggest that we have this further looked at to make sure we've got a safe system here. So you can have those conversations with them to make sure that everyone is in fact on the same page. Flashing detail. yes, it's kind of a kind of byproduct that might be needing more effort when we come to more advanced high performance wall systems. I've talked to some builders here in Kelowna, they're trying out different walls, and one of their biggest kind of stumbling blocks is proper flashing detail, the cost of the flashing, and getting their trades to get used to doing it properly. So yes, that could be a little bit of a growing pain, for example, when it comes to using more high performance techniques in your wall systems. But obviously, once it's learned, once it's done, we should all be better for it, obviously, in the end. So just, there's always a learning opportunity to be had when we're looking at high performance building. And that goes for every area. Foundation walls. Same thing. We've got a lot of options here. There's ICF, there's concrete, there's framing, obviously on the inside. Where do you put your foam insulation if you have some, so on and so forth. So lots of options available. Spray foam is also widely used in some applications that we've seen. I know a lot of areas kind of have their construction kind of preferences. So, I see a lot in the Lower Mainland, the Okanagan, some in the Fraser Valley, for example, and there's some nuances there, what people are actually doing or using and what some jurisdictions prefer to see in some cases too. So, there's lots of stuff out there. ICF. ICF is something that when you talk to builders, previous conversations, it's like that seems to be, oh, if we built to ICF, we're going to be just fine. We have to look at the effective R values. For example, a typical ICF that has a 2 5/8 thickness of EPS on each side, we're looking at an effective R value of approximately R22 for that, give or take, depending on the brand and all of that. ICF does come in different thicknesses as well. We've got the 3-inch and even up to 4 inches of foam, and it might even come in different materials like a GPS, graphite polystyrene versus EPS. Some of them are on the market. So we get an R28 plus. But for an R22 basement, that can also be achieved conventionally with concrete, with a layer of foam, for example, and some framing and some batt. And you might achieve the same or even a little bit higher than R22, depending on what you're doing. So the sky's the limit in regards to that as well. So I'm just saying that the R value, effective R values of ICF can easily be replicated or the same as, other techniques using concrete as well. It all depends on your preference and of course on choice. Full ICF homes obviously can be quite airtight. We're having a really good head start to being airtight. So there's pros and cons everywhere. So again, lots of options available. Spray foam, continuous. It can act as your air and vapor barrier at the same time. We've seen a lot of wall systems here in foundations where they would frame 2x4s instead of 2x6, because that's a cost savings right there. Just frame your 2x4 in your basements off of the concrete foundation to allow that gap. So it can actually be filled in with an R24 batt or R22 batt. We want to try and avoid, touching the concrete. There's a concept there as well to keep had, but sometimes we'll see spray foam applied against the concrete behind the 2x4 and coming into the cavity, and then either more spray foam or topped up with some batt. So again, lots of options, airtight pretty well. Well, most everything in the basement is airtight behind concrete, but just to show you, you don't need vapor polyethylene at that point either. So it all kind of takes care of it. So again, you get to your R values in many, many different ways. It all depends on choice, cost, and ease of install, so on and so forth. Vapor diffusion is definitely one thing to keep in mind too when it comes to installing polyethylene. If we're in a fully damp-proof concrete wall that's fully underground, even if outside we've got a patio that's actually poured against that, and we have a fully insulated wall on the inside with polyethylene, we have seen some condensation issues in that during the first 1 or 2 years of that concrete curing, adding some humidity or giving off humidity. So smart vapor retarders, smart vapor barriers might be a good thing to consider depending on that assembly. So if you go with the smart vapor barrier, which there's maybe a little bit of, well, there would be a slight cost increase for that, but it's It looks the same, it reacts the same for the most part. We get some high performance ones, but we have some more kind of traditional polyethylene layers that are smart vapor barriers that are on the market too, that are available. For foundations for pony walls, we have a lot of options there as well. One opportunity that you might have is to, instead of stepping down with your foundation, you can actually frame all the way up with your inside framing as well. And like in this photograph, it allows you with a double layer. So you can insulate both layers instead of having a shelf traditionally like we would see in older construction in your step down basement. So again, just a trick there you can add, and that would add to our effective R value of the entire project. Slabs, again, under slab insulation, depending if it's needed or not. Again, it fits projects. Sometimes it's not needed, depending on you want it for comfort. If they're in-floor heat, obviously, that's a no-brainer. For example, for any kind of basement slabs. So with that said, we'll get to the mechanical side of things. I've just got a very old furnace picture here just to simulate how things have changed over time. And we kind of have to have that mentality when it comes to mechanicals. There's so much technology out there, and not just technology that we can look at to help us with the higher steps, but also there is a lot of tools available to have us install it and design it properly. So when it comes to steps 4 and 5, it's pretty safe to say that heat pump technology is necessary, is needed. And that comes for heating and cooling as well as hot water. And we're seeing lots of technologies emerge onto the market. We've got stuff like phase change that is, for hot water that's starting to make its way in. So there's no shortage of new technology, but things that will work to get us to our targets. Some of it has to be proven yet, or it hasn't been on the market that long or still being tested and so on and so forth. We've also got our ventilation efficiencies that will help us too. And we also should be considering the cooling requirements. As you may know, and I'm sure in New West, cooling is probably included automatically. In some cases where, it wasn't much needed, we have cooling requirements now by code for life safety reasons that at least one room has to remain at 26 degrees. So something else to consider with your design and with your conversations with HVAC and your energy advisors and modelers. So choices and considerations for mechanicals, we've got full electric systems. There are dual fuel systems out there where you have an air source heat pump with a gas furnace and or a hot water coil to heat that coil with an air source heat pump. And of course, combination systems for radiant systems. We have air-to-air systems, air-to-water heat pumps. Lots of stuff on the market. One thing that could be a benefit, and have this conversation with your HVAC designers, with your HVAC contractors. What best fits this project? Is there inflow radiant heat? Can we heat the home with it properly with air-to-water heat pumps? Can we also cool the home via the same system? If that's the case, are there any considerations there that we need to be aware of? So again, heat pumps are key to these upper steps. There are systems out there that take less space in your mechanical room, that take less appliances, for example. Like we don't need 2 systems to do one job each. One can do both, perhaps. Just so many options out there. Just have that conversation with your HVAC designer and or installer and energy advisor, and ask the right questions. There's maybe a varying degree of exploring into new technologies from HVAC contractors from one to one. So just asking the right questions will get you to that right combination for your project. Again, to stress it enough, it's best to plan it right and do it right the first time. Proper mechanical install, sizing, for example, and installation, and then verification of its performance. It's key. Why put something in and assume that it's working and then it's just off by 10%. We've just spent all that extra energy, time, and possibly premature wear on that system. These are high performance systems. When they're installed well and properly, commissioned, things should be smooth. But if they're not, there's probably more chance of something going wrong in the future that will be a bit of a head scratcher, for example. Right sizing with F280 room by room heat loss, that should be a no-brainer. It's actually required by code. Some ask more for it than others. So just again, ask the questions, ask for this report. You can look at it and familiarize with yourself with it to see, what does this mean, and just to get that relay of information from trade to builder to install, just to have everyone in that conversation, make sure that we're installing it properly. And then verification, proper commissioning after the fact. Air tightness, probably one of the biggest jumps, I guess. We're looking for step 5. We're looking at 1 ACH, 1 air change per hour, and that's a really, really good number. It's absolutely doable. Even with conventional practice, it is doable. I like to think of it as, let's use our air barrier, let's do it properly. I know there's contractors out there that can seal homes, such as AeroBarrier, for example. They are out there, but this is where we should be headed, is to organically see how can we seal our homes, and without needing that extra step, for example, for costs and such. And it's also just good practice. There's a lot of areas, small detailed areas that do add up. These are just little gaps in window corners, very simple to seal. And I'm sure many on the call here probably have air tightness advanced techniques already. Just a couple of tips and tricks that we see in the field that we kind of bring on and we show builders, and then from there on, they learn, they do, and now they do that from now on. So it's just a matter of keeping that practice going. Small areas, they do add up. This is obviously an interior poly home. Spray foam. Spray foam is not perfect. It sounds really good, and oh, we'll just spray foam. Even a full spray foam house is going to be just fine. There's gaps, there's hidden gaps. The installation of spray foam can be tricky. We see it all the time. We do mid-construction with full spray foam homes with thermal imaging. There's little gaps here and there. Stacked framing, like we see on the right here. If we don't seal those joints, that's a possible area for air to come in. Small stuff. On the left is a little gap above in a rim joist area, so on and so forth. Little gaps in framing. This is at ceiling levels, again, stacked kind of studs, for example. Those gaps, they're vulnerable. You have 100 of those in a home, it can add up, for example. So little areas. The best thing to do is to actually have your energy advisor come into a mid-construction blower door test. There's a lot of aha moments during these tests, and hopefully that they help educate and then take that further. The exterior air barrier as well. If you haven't tried this yet, I would strongly suggest it. It's very easy. It's so effective. It's a matter of connecting the outside with, for example, your house wrap to your foundations, to interconnecting with your attic, however that is, the configuration. Taping the joints, good EPDM seals at your penetrations. It's quite easy to do. And if you do this in conjunction with interior poly, we've seen huge success rates. Huge success rates. The picture on the right is the inside of a garage of a townhome. They've actually used the house wrap on the inside. So that exterior air barrier concept was brought into the garage for the exposed floor and the shared wall with the home. Townhomes can be very tricky for air sealing. I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but these areas of the party walls, that's one of the most vulnerable ones. Areas like this here too, if there is parapet type wall, for example, there's the talk of compartmentalization. Are we sealing the walls between townhomes or units? It's great. It's great for smells, great for sounds, great for air tightness altogether, but that also needs some really good detail. So again, speak with your energy advisor, your building consultant, your building envelope consultant, for example. Just get those proper details hashed out, and even just drawn out, if it's on a napkin or on house plans, have a plan for that air tightness. And there's a lot of things that a mid-construction test will show you, especially in townhomes, that can be used. A garage, entry-level garage into a furnace room to the townhome above, it gets tricky. So it's just a matter of gauging it, seeing where those problem areas might be, and taking that forward. So again, air sealing, it's pretty fundamental. Just got to pay attention to smaller details. Think as air. Can air get through from outside to inside as you're looking at an assembly? A red line, on your actual plans, if you can draw a red line around your elevation or your cross section, that should do the trick. So it's thinking in that way. It's a continuous system. It involves many other materials. It's not just poly and spray foam and outside air. It's wood, it's window, it's glass, it's vinyl along windows. It's many, many other components that work together. Again, mid-construction can reveal lots of stuff, and it's also a good educational experience for you to be on site and see where things are at and take that forward. Now, I'm looking at the time here. How much time do I have here, Ryan? I'm not sure.
Is it 10 more minutes, Sue?
Is it? Yeah,
On the
okay.
agenda, I think. Is that right?
Sounds good. And then
Yeah.
and including questions?
There's a couple questions, so
Okay.
we'll make it work. Don't worry, you're good. You're good.
Awesome. So we'll go from the step code steps 4 and 5 to the zero carbon step code. Again, since March 10th, 2025, it got introduced and we were at the measure only. Well, it got introduced in May 2023, but we were actually doing the measure only as of March 10th, 2025. The measure only just meaning, it's supposed to be some kind of an awareness kind of step to show you, this house is at EL2, for example, or EL1. So measure only should have been meant to show not, oh, you're at EL1, you're great. It's like, actually, no, you're at EL3 as it stands right now. So, but it just wasn't in so much, a needed level. Obviously, like New West has done, they've voluntarily adopted higher levels of the carbon step code, which is great. So step 5 with EL2 and step 4 with EL4. Again, there's different ways of calculating these, and your energy advisor within our calculations can look at that. There's different kinds of targets. There's the absolute targets versus a per square meter target. And there's always a little bit of wiggle room there too. So for example, a dual fuel system can be considered an EL4, for example. Just because there's a gas appliance in the home that might be heating as a backup, it doesn't mean that automatically it's not EL4. These are just a bit more of the targets here, but again, the energy advisor, energy modeler would be calculating this on your behalf to make sure that we're on track. It does look at operational carbon at this moment. Okay, so that's the carbon, the emissions from operating the home. Nothing about, what's in the products, to manufacture the products. And it does include basically the primary heating systems, hot water systems, including the backup systems to a heat pump, for example, if it was a dual fuel. One thing it does not include is your appliances and fireplaces, because these are considered kind of luxury items. They're not primary heating systems. So that's a question that we get quite often. So again, what it comes down to for steps 4 and steps 5, for EL4 and yeah, EL4, I'll just stick with that one. We're basically looking at heat pump technology. I'm bringing back the slide from the mechanical section just to say that, we're back to heat pumps. When it comes to hot water systems, we're definitely with an electrically based system for EL4. We've got a lot of modeling that we've been doing to kind of prove what level we're at. We've seen a lot of projects with a dual fuel heating system with electric hot water that can be EL4. Absolutely. If it's full electric, even better, obviously. It all depends too. I mean, we can get that again, a properly sized heating system will be detrimental or sorry, will be absolutely needed, sorry, because the backup heating system should only be there as a backup, as fully necessary. So your heat pump has to be properly sized for this to work properly. So again, emphasis on that first initial design. So
Jill,
oh yeah,
just before you jump off, can I just ask you a quick question on the dual fuel and what you're seeing in the interior?
yeah, absolutely.
Are you finding with the any of the new construction projects, like what are you seeing in terms of system sizing, in terms of like the gas furnace with the heat pump and or in terms of control configuration? Like what type of switchover are HVAC contractors programming into the thermostat ahead of occupancy?
That's a good question. Even that switchover temperature does vary quite a bit. We do
Mhm.
see we've got a lot of keener HVAC contractors here in town.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can see anything from -5 to even a little bit lower than that for sure. Even the cold climate stuff can be a little bit more. It all depends on, is it a match system? Is it properly done, with proper controls? That's just a huge thing.
yeah. I was just curious as to whether or not previous like rebate program influencing of like industry behaviors had like crossed over into new construction where we might see sizing to more cooling loads and things like that. But
Oh,
anyways,
absolutely.
we can we
No,
can
that
we can,
has.
we can have a beer storming on that at another time.
Yeah, for sure. No, you know what? Something we've seen too is with the Fortis new home program is that they are requiring a commissioning form as far as their step 4, step 5 rebates. And on that form, it does actually state, what the cutoff temperature is, and they're mandating certain cutoff temperatures. And so there's a lot more awareness. They have really shook up the industry, and in a very positive way. Absolutely. So in regards to the carbon step code, we're not quite there yet, but the concept of embodied carbon, which is the amount of emissions taken to create and manufacture and transport products to build your home, that's not in our carbon step code. It is something that is of conversation right now already within at the national levels, and it is slowly making its way possibly towards our regulations, but right now it's just being considered. So if you haven't heard about embodied carbon in the past, it's something that your energy advisor and modeler can calculate for you on the entire project. It helps you create decisions, on materials to help lessen that amount of emissions. That's the emissions that went into the build before you even open the door and turn on the heating system. And that's a big chunk, and then the operational comes after the fact. So they do interplay, and we are talking a lot more about it. A few case study examples before I go on. Step fours already. We've got a townhome project. This is in climate zone 4. This is in Chilliwack. Um, and they use the exterior air barrier system. Step 4 EL4, just to show you what was in this, and I'm just trying to see what it would take to go to step 5. They already had an ACH of 1.3 for the whole building. We did guarded testing, 3 fans at once, or not guarded, whole building with 3 fans. They had a cold climate heat pump with a gas furnace, dual fuel, electric storage tank. They did not have HRVs in here. They had the interconnected systems for their ventilation, a basic R22 wall, R60 attic, R24, no under slab insulation, but they already had decent windows at triple pane. This came in at step 4 already, and EL4, even with the gas furnace as a backup, because the cold climate heat pump was actually a certified, properly sized system for the building. And the air tightness, they did use a exterior air barrier for that. To get to step 5 for this and still EL4, obviously the air tightness would have to be better. The only other upgrades would be needed is an electric hybrid heat pump water system, an HRV system. We'd had to go and improve the walls to R24 plus an inch of mineral wool on the outside. And going under slab insulation. Actually, that one there, we could have gone with or without, depending on comfort. We had a little bit of wiggle room with the numbers. And then just making sure that the patio doors had the same kind of U values as the rest of the house. So that was just one example of some of the upgrades needed to get to that step 5. And step 4 to 5 is quite the leap. I know we were talking about this with Ryan. It's not just a step, it's a bit of a leap. So just to show that, there's different combinations of things that we can do that makes sense for the most part. And that's having your EA and you having that discussion, see what your preferences are on that too. Again, another one, single family with a suite, climate zone 4 too. Again, this one's in Chilliwack, one of our clients there. Already good air tightness at 1.17, air source heat pump with gas furnace, electric storage tank. Again, no HRV, R22 walls, so nothing spectacular there. R50 attics, R20 flat roof. They had perimeter under slab for the slab areas, and they had triple pane windows. And their basement was a pretty basic basement. Again, here's the mid-construction sealed exterior air barrier. Their air tightness at mid-construction was 1.88, which is We consider that on track, pretty good to be below 1.5, and they wound up at 1.17. So this one for step 5, obviously air change rate of 1, upgrade to an HRV. The walls have to be upgraded, and the attic slightly, and full under slab insulation. And that's what got us to step 5 on this one. So again, we were able to keep the electric storage tank in this one, not go to a hybrid heat pump water heater if we wanted to choose that, depending on costs and whatever the preference was for the build. So again, different options that your energy advisor can help you with. With that, the EA, your energy advisor, energy modeler, we are really becoming a bit of the connector of the dots. We're in the middle of a lot of decisions that can be made within that. So work with them, ask them the questions. Their skill set is varied and their skill set is always expanding. Like say, we could help with mechanical heat loss, heat gains. If the mechanical contractor's, not doing it, we can do it with our energy model, which makes it a bit more precise in a way, instead of using somewhat defaults. We'd like to come in at planning stage, design stage, where we could make decisions early. With that said, it's all about the integrated design process. If we implement that where everyone's having that conversation earlier on, we can make decisions at a time where it might not cost as much. We don't have to redo work. We don't have to take 2 steps back to do 1 step forward again. So having that conversation is something that we're really trying to incorporate as common practice with partnering building, because it's not done a lot. There's rebates out there from Fortis for the IDP process to be implemented. Again, it's just a matter of designing first and building later, not building and then design as you go. And then also the mindset for IDP is having a collaborative mindset between everyone, trades, everything. We're not just thinking in silos where, this is my job, I'm going to do my job and leave the site, and then someone comes in after and does their job and leaves the site, affecting other people's work and punching holes through the walls. These are all just sayings, but it can happen. So again, IDP, if you're using it, great. There's different levels of IDP out there, from full-fledged structured ones with a full day room full of everyone, to having coffee with your clients and getting that information on smaller, not so frequent builds, for example. This graph here just shows the opportunity to save money. We can make decisions before the money's spent, as opposed to later when it's more difficult to make changes to the the project. So this just shows you how using IDP in that blue curve, where the number 4 is more effective and gives for a smoother execution of the build after the fact. Oh, a lot of animations here. Sorry, I wasn't aware of. There can be some challenges. Not every trade is available to take part in these meetings, readily available. So you as a builder, if we got steps 4 and 5 that we're after, it's crucial that we plan it properly. You can ask your trades to be part of IDP as part of their commitment to the project. Find that really does help. And I find contractors here and trades are more willing to participate now. It's not just an extra, oh, I got to do this now. It's actually, I want to be hired by this builder again, so I'm going to do the best I can. And once we go through it once with a builder and that group of trades, like, wow, that was easy and that was great. And I learned a lot from the drywall installer to the plumber to, like, everyone's got good ideas, and it's good to hear everyone out. So that's kind of the mindset of IDP. One last slide for Casey, our Canadian Association of Consulting Energy Advisors. Sorry. We're here, we're 10 years old. Our mandate is to elevate our profession as energy advisors. As mentioned, we are doing a lot more now. We're becoming consultants, really, in a ways, how I see it. There's varying degrees of skill sets out there, but we like to have a higher standard for our membership. We have continuing education credits. We have our own internal system for, not CPD, but continuing education. We've got the requirement for insurance, E&O insurance, all of that stuff that goes above and beyond our typical what NRCan requires from energy advisors. We have training, webinars, we've got supplier members, we've got members who are part of the building community, other associations, and so on and so forth. So I invite you to explore our website. Our members are all listed there with their qualifications as well as the trainings that they have. And yeah, with that said, and a few minutes over, I'm sorry, Ryan, and everyone else, but that's me there. But I thank you for listening to me ramble on for an hour.
All good, all good. Very good presentation. Thanks so much, Jules. Lots of awesome information, especially like change in terms of design strategies and materials to be used when you go to the highest levels of performance. So that was super helpful. We do have a couple questions, and feel free to raise your hands, folks, if you also want to ask. Roberto asked a couple really good ones. Our friend Roberto from Zeke. First one is it less expensive to go with? Oh, sorry, no, that's not the first one. The first one is how much does a hybrid electric water heater benefit step 4 or step 5?
It really does benefit a lot. And with that said, and I'm talking about within our energy modeling, huge benefit, but it also kicks us a little bit. The heat pump water heater in our energy model is considered to be inside the building in a conditioned space. So it is going to cool off the interior space a little bit by its operation. So, but performance-wise, in regards to its COPs and everything else, it's a huge benefit. So mechanically and towards net zero, which we haven't even touched on net zero, for the amount of solar panels it takes to get to net zero with a hybrid heat pump, it helps tremendously because the hot water load is a huge load inside of a home. But if we're cooling off a little bit of that room or that space inside the home, our envelope target gets affected a little bit. So we might have to make that up somewhere somehow. So that's all part of the balance with heat pump water heater.
But isn't there a design consideration there in terms of drawing that air from outside?
There is,
Like
yeah.
instead of like yeah, anyways. Like that's
There
what
is
I was saying.
in the real world, but in
Yeah.
regards to the modeling, we are still limited in incorporating
Oh.
the full benefits of that, the full benefits.
Oh, so you get penalized from the modeling standpoint.
You can, yeah, all depending on what kind of workaround
Oh,
that we.
wild. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Good. That's really, well, learned something here. That's good.
And,
That's awesome,
and
Jules.
again, it's a story of the modeling numbers versus the real
Yeah,
world install. Yeah.
very cool. Bro's got another good one. I got some thoughts on this too, but I'll let you go first. Is it less expensive to go with air-to-air heat pumps for heating and cooling or in-floor radiant heating and cooling? So an air-to-water heat pump. What are
Oh
you seeing
gosh,
in terms
Ryan,
of costs?
I'm going to send that right back to you because air to water for us here in the Okanagan, I have
Don't see it.
limited exposure
Yeah.
to or again, it's that regional preference. So I'd like to hear from you, Ryan, what
Yeah, I
that.
mean, I would definitely say like air to air is more of I wouldn't call it conventional, but it's definitely a more mature technology in our market and more familiarity with the trades, so less sort of like labor costs. The air to water has come a long way since, we worked on a guide for City of Vancouver like 10 years ago, and there was like 5 products that we listed in that guide that had like some availability of local supplier and support for contractors. And now that portfolio has grown immensely, as well as like the types of technologies and the temperature of the water it's able to deliver and all kinds of good stuff. So it's evolving super quickly, and prices I would say are like coming down in terms of equipment, as well as now we're building more capacity on the labor front in terms of familiarity of trades too. So it's definitely a more expensive product. Like I'm not going to argue that it's less expensive than your conventional forced air heating system, but I would say it's trending in the right direction. And Roberto, you asked a really good question because it's a good plug. We're doing the builder breakfast in the fall. We've heard lots of sort of like myths around air to water heat pumps and costing comparisons between gas boilers and electric boilers and what do you do with cooling and all that kind of stuff. So we're actually going to do a bit of like a costing exercise and a deeper dive on air to water heat pumps in the fall for folks who want to join us at Amble Center with the breakfast with the builder training. So yeah. Anyways, that's my sort of thoughts on it. Sorry, a little bit rambling there, but
All good.
hopefully that's helpful. And then I know there was one more here. Oh no, maybe there wasn't. Anybody else have questions before we wrap up Jill's piece and then we pivot over to the city and Thanks so much for those answers, Jill's right. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you, Roberto. Thanks for joining us too today, by the way. Yeah, okay, well maybe we can shift gears, Sue and Karen, to the next spot. Jill's, that was really great presentation. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me. And I have to drop onto another Casey webinar that's currently happening. So
All
thanks again.
good. Bon voyage, sir. And thanks
Excellent.
again,
Thank
and
you.
we'll follow up with you, all right?
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Over to Miss Karen. You're all good.
Great, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. So I just have a few really quick slides. Hi everyone, again, I'm Karen. I'm here on behalf of the City of New Westminster's Climate Action Team. So we're part of the city's Energy and Climate Action Department, and we're really focused on developing climate action related policies, strategies, and tools, and supporting kind of the technical reporting for the city. And we work to advance our climate action targets, including advancing the 7 bold steps for climate action and strengthening climate resilience across the city. And this slide here kind of just focuses on some of the ways that we work with buildings and on the building side. So some of the things we do is to support our staff internal capacity. So working with the building team to support training and developing opportunities or development opportunities related to the STEP codes. On the existing building side, we support, retrofitting of buildings in a number of different ways, including promoting the Strata Energy Advisor Program, the Rental Apartment Retrofit Accelerator, Home Energy Planner, a number of different programs out there. We also partner with and promote the Building Benchmark BC program. That's a free building energy benchmarking program for large existing buildings that helps get buildings set up on the Energy Star portfolio manager. And then, of course, we have Energy Save New West, which in addition to providing training for builders, also provides support to homeowners, and it's our very own community energy program. If you could move to the next slide, Sue. We just wanted to highlight, or building off of Jill's presentation. So we are currently effective as of January 1st, 2025 at Step 5 EL2 or Step 4 EL4 for Part 9, and for Part 3 we are at Step 4 EL1 or Step 3 EL4. But we wanted to just remind everybody that as of January 1st, we are moving up to Step 5 EL4 for Part 9 and Step 4 EL4 for Part 3. So we just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that timeline and that shift happening soon. Next slide, please. And then again, just a reminder of our EV ready requirements. We've had these in place, I think, since 2018 for residential buildings, and as of last year for non-residential. And so you can find this information on our website. And just a reminder that we do allow, in most cases, energy management systems, EV energy management systems, and load switching as well. And next slide. And then we also just want to remind folks of this new resource that we have, the Climate Ready New Homes Bulletin. So this really outlines the city's expectations on what we're looking for from applicants to show how they've met the STEP codes and the overheating protection requirements. So other solutions, of course, can be proposed, but following the guidance in this bulletin usually means just a lot less back and forth between you and the city. And this bulletin is applied to all new BP applications as of February 1st, 2026. So it's helpful to take a look at this bulletin before, at the beginning of a project and plan adequately and just be aware of what the items are in this bulletin. And if you have questions, there's contact information there on the bulletin. Next slide, please. Yeah, and just super quickly, what you'll find in that bulletin is some guidance on related to the energy and zero carbon step code. So right sizing the primary heating system for the entire unit. we ask for whenever, so we ask to model all space heating systems. So when natural gas backup is proposed, we look for two sets of step code documentation, one with the heat pump as a primary and one with natural gas. And then ensuring that we're documenting the secondary suite heating and cooling systems in the BC Energy compliance checklist. And then the next slide, Sue. And then we also provide guidance on overheating protection with sort of outlining 3 options here. So central cooling for all conditioned airspaces being the most simplest option. Option 2 is if only one room has cooling, a heat loss gain report must be submitted for refuge room. And then option 3, if a passive cooling option is selected, a signed and sealed energy simulation report should be submitted, and the Section 219 covenant registered on title. So lots of details in there. You can go to the next slide. I think we'll skip that one. And that's it for me. We can move over to Sue. Thank you. You're muted.
Oh, I think I'm talking here, right, Sue?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
You wanted me to talk?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, can you just go back one slide to Karen's? I just wanted to, because that teases it up. So when the city issued their Climate Ready New Homes Bulletin, one of the things that they were explicit and was the implementation of requirements for F28012 compliant load calculations at building permit. And so that's to demonstrate the sizing of the system and to help with compliance and verification around cooling compliance. So if we now that the city is requiring that, we're starting to get reports in, and we're helping out with the city in terms of capacity through Energy Save New West, in terms of what they should be looking for with those reports, and then what is some good data that should be on those reports. And so number one, and this is helpful for the industry, is you need to be making sure that your HVAC designer or the trade who's doing your load calculations is using verified software tools. Up until recently, there was various programs claiming to be F280, and there was no way of validating where they actually providing outputs that were in line with the standard itself. So the standard has been updated over the past year to include a clause, which is this one, that is any software that claims to conform must be approved through a verification procedure, and it should have this logo, which is HVAC Designers of Canada verified F280 software. So, TECA, the usual. I think do we have a slide here with the perfect? Good. I thought we did. So this is a slide with, as well as Prop Rate is on there as well now. So we just need to update the slide, but there's various tools that are out there that you may be accessing through your contractor or your energy advisor or whoever is going to be doing the load calculations as part of your submittal. So it should be one of Avenir, TECA is a very popular one, MyTech, which is RightSoft, and then Prop Rate and Volta Snap, which is the energy advisor tool to turn the energy advisor data into a compliant load calculation. But the key thing to keep in mind is like it should be one of those software tools, and it will have that verified software logo on it. So that's your one sort of like tip for managing this requirement. Next slide. And then standardized reporting. So all of these software tools, they all have their own proprietary reports and various pie charts and ways to demonstrate room by room load calculations. What's the contribution of infiltration versus walls versus windows, all of that kind of good stuff. What you need to be well versed on, and this is like both like we're working with the city in terms of their understanding with this, as well as with industry, is the need for the standardized reporting component of this. So all of those software tools come with the ability to provide a standardized output report. And that's the whole purpose of that, is to improve the consistency with compliance and verification, both for like rebate programs, but as well as with AHJs now who are doing enhanced compliance. So Township of Langley, City of New Westminster, Vancouver, others that are going to be coming in terms of requiring load calculations as part of the building permit. So that's what it looks like in terms of the cover sheet. And then we'll just go into a little bit more detail here quickly. And so why this is really important is it really has like, it has 3 parts to it. It has the design heat loss and gain page with the the heat loss value, the design cooling value, and then the designer attestation. So that's the system compliance, and who did the calculation. It also includes the output report. So that's the whole home stuff. And then it has the output report in terms of the room by room value. So this is the breakdown of the what the BTUs are for heating and cooling in each of the room areas. So that would be for your, to design to that. And then it has the input summary. So you've got your cover, you've got your room by room, and then you've got your input. And so these values are like, what was the design conditions? What is the air tightness values? What is the roof and basement and wall assembly details? What are the windows? What are the U values? What are the solar heat gain coefficients? And why this is really important is because really those values should mimic what was modeled originally with your energy advisor for BC Energy compliance reports. So the first thing that we check is there a variation in some of the design condition information or some of the performance attributes that had been modeled for the load calc versus the step code compliance documentation? If so, and it's not within an acceptable tolerance, so to speak, like we're talking about way different equipment sizes and things, then we need to investigate that further, right? But for a builder or a designer, that you folks, you need to be, when you're looking at this, you need to be taking ownership of it and making sure that it is entirely accurate and correct. And a little spot checking and auditing can help with that. Yeah, so that's why those reports, and it's really 3 pages, and it should 3 pages, and that's what you'll be submitting to the city. So you can have the proprietary stuff that the software vendors also produce as backup, but it's going to be the standardized reporting that is going to be wanting to be reviewed and communicated between the applicant and the city. So if you have any questions with F280 verified software tools, New Homes Climate Bulletin, we're happy to take those and field them by email or to support with the transition. We're just starting to see some F280s now, so we're kind of learning. We're helping to support with the training and support needed at the city to do this, as well as the industry.
Okay, the next item is about solar panels and battery storage rebate program. So at our last fall event, we gave like a brief preview of this solar panel and battery storage program. This program officially launched at the beginning of this year, and we've seen like strong interest from homeowners with like a significant number of applications received as well. So these are the program details for new homes. The rebate amount is same as the existing home, so it's up to 5,000 for solar PV. It's like $10,000 per kilowatt. And the battery storage, as of April 1st, the rebate amount has changed to $1,500. So it's $500 per kilowatt, and maximum amount will be $1,500. And and the battery storage must be paired with a solar PV system, whether it's existing or new. And you have to apply for net metering connection. And the product must be on the eligible system or product list. You can refer to the BC Hydro eligible product list. And for the rebate eligibility, the home must be structurally complete with installed and connecting plumbing, heating, electrical, water, and sewer services. And as of June 1st, the system must be installed by a home performance contractor network member to qualify for the rebate. Okay, the last one, we also teased out that we will be updating the technical bulletins for Energy Step Code, as well as there will be a new Zero Carbon Step Code technical bulletin coming up. So we now have like a timeline. So they will be issued this summer. So keep an eye on it. So these updates will provide clarified requirements and improved consistency in interpretation, and additional technical guidance to support implementations. I think that is the last slide of the City and Energy Save US updates. Anyone has any questions, comments, or thoughts?
or suggestions of things they might want to see in the fall? All good? Going once? Going twice? Okay, no worries. We don't have to if there's no further comments or questions, yeah, just we can wrap up here at 10 a.m. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. As we mentioned, we are going to reconvene folks in the fall, looking at some air to water heat pump content, and trying to do this and doing this in person, at a venue at New West. It'll either be Amble Center or the new community pool. We're looking at a room there. So stay tuned with our newsletter. I know most of you folks, I recognize these names, are subscribers. So we'll keep you abreast of how plans come together. Karen, I don't know if you had any final thoughts.
No, just really appreciate folks joining us today on a rainy Friday.
Yeah,
I hope
great weather
you
was
found it useful and valuable, and yeah, really appreciate everybody